Friends. It's good to see you, or be seen by you, I should say. Welcome to Bible Study Live with Connie and friends, although my friends are a bit late today, so they'll be popping in, and when they do, you'll see them briefly, and then I'll put them off screen for a moment until we get to the end of today's message. But welcome. We do Bible Study Live every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. ET, most of the time. I say almost every Thursday, I should say. When I can't do it, it's either because I have a schedule conflict or because my most fun part is when I have a guest host and they lead the message, like Spring did last Thursday, which was really great. She did a great job talking about wisdom and learning. So wisdom versus knowledge is what she talked about last Thursday. And she talked about Solomon, and she also read from 1 Corinthians 13. It was such a blessing. So thank you again, Spring. Tonight, we are finishing up our August theme. And our August theme is wisdom, learning, and experience in the Bible. That is the official theme, wisdom, learning, and experience in the Bible. And we've talked a lot about wisdom. We talked about Solomon. We talked about wisdom being referred to as a she, and how she was there before humans were, that she was there when God built the world, created the world out of nothing, that wisdom was right there. And she's, like I said, referred to as she. But we haven't talked about experience. And so tonight's message is all about experience. And the title of tonight's message is, how does faith affect your experience, and how do your experiences affect your faith? And I'm going to be speaking from personal experience. Specifically, there's my sprinkle coming in. Let me put myself there back on the screen. So welcome, Spring. I was just talking about you and praising God for you for last week and your awesome message. So I'm so glad you're here with us this evening. And I know my other friends will be coming in. They show up a little late. But hi, honey. Anyway, so tonight we're talking about experience. We've talked about wisdom. We've talked about knowledge. We've talked about learning. But tonight we're talking about experience. And I'm going to talk from my own personal experience as well. But first, I just want to share. You think about things in the Bible in terms of what they experienced, and how there were certain things in the Bible that if they happened today, even as believers, if they happened today, we would say either that didn't happen, or I'm sure there was a logical explanation for it, or we would just say, that's some devil stuff. Even if it was the miracles, that we read about and hear about in the Bible, if we saw those today, we'd immediately try to deny it. And not everyone. Some people believe in those miracles. They see them and experience them every day. But many people don't, even Christians, even believers. Hello, my sister. She can't hear me yet, but I'm waving to her. So I'm sure she'll see me waving. Hi, sister. So anyway, we've read this story before, so I'm going to share some scriptures and think about how people would respond if this happened today. We've read this particular scripture before, but I got to read it again, because think about it. Now, this is in the Bible. We know about it. We've read about it, but I really want you to think about this and imagine if it happened today. So go with me to Numbers 22. Numbers 22, and we're going to start reading at verse 21. One of my favorite scriptures for multiple reasons. Balaam got up in the morning, saddled his donkey, and went with the princes of Moab. But God was very angry when he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. Balaam was riding on his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, she turned off the road into a field. Balaam beat her to get her back on the road. That part you can see. You can imagine being on your horse or your donkey or whatever you're riding, and it goes off the road. You can see being like, hey, using your whip or whatever, your reins, and get back on the road. That part, you can see that in modern day, right? Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow path between two vineyards with walls on both sides. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she pressed close to the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat her again, right? His response was beat her again. She's not doing what I'm telling her to do. I'm a beat her. Unfortunately, this is familiar. Then the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn, either to the right or to the left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam, and he was angry and beat her with his staff. Then, so all of that, we can see that, then we can see it modern day. But then look what happens. Then look what happens in verse 28 of chapter 22 of Numbers. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" All right. In our experience, and many of you have pets, you've got animals, and if your animal didn't just give you their meows and their barks, but they started speaking in English to you, how would you respond? What would your experience tell you? Would you just be, Balaam answered the donkey, "You made a fool of me." Seriously? That's where you're going? If I had had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now. Oh my goodness. The donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your own donkey, which you have always ridden to this day? Have I been in the habit of doing this to you?" I love them. It's not just he opened up the mouth of the donkey. The donkey had some sense. It had some attitude, some sarcasm, some, "Have I done this before? Have I been in the habit of doing this?" No, he said. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed low and fell face down. Okay. So now we got a whole other thing happening. Again, in modern day, you're riding your horse, your donkey, it goes off the thing, you do whatever you need to do to get it back on track, and you're mad at it. Why aren't you going? We get mad at our cars. We're beating the car. Why are you going this way? Why did you stall? Why did you stop? Why did the tire get flat? Let's see, the car just started saying, why have you beaten on me? Why are you blowing my horn? Just imagine this donkey out of nowhere. God opens the donkey's mouth and it speaks, and he just handles it. Not like, "Whoa, you've been able to talk all this time?" Nope. If I'd had a sword, I'd have killed you. Seriously? The donkey was like, "Dude, haven't I been your donkey? Have I ever done this before? No. What's your problem?" But then the angel standing there, God opens Balaam's eyes and he sees the angel. He doesn't say, "Oh, what's happening right now?" He's like, "Oh, it's an angel. Let me bow down." Just like that. He bowed low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him in verse 32, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I have come here to oppose you because your path is a reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away. It turned away from me these 3 times. If she had not turned away, I would have certainly killed you by now, but I would have spared her." Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to oppose me. Now, if you are displeased, I will go back." The angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but speak only what I tell you." So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. Okay, now listen. If we were walking out of our door and suddenly there was a humongous angel with sword drawn standing there, would you walk out? Would you bow down, or would you just shut the door like, I don't know what's going on out there? You'd probably just shut the door, right? What people experienced in the Bible and what we experience today. Somebody asked me recently, are there still miracles that happen today? There are obviously miracles that still happen today. There really are. Do we call them that? Most of the time, no. We either say that's some devil stuff, or you know what? I'm sure there's a logical explanation for it. That piece right there, when some things, even the doctors say, this is a miracle. I remember when my mom, Gina and I were with my mom at the hospital, and all her organs shut down, and they this is before she passed. And I think it was like her 60th birthday or something like that. And they were like, we don't know. There's nothing. She was in the ICU. There's just nothing we can do. And that night, an angel came to her and sat in her room and talked to her. She told me and Gina about it later. And then suddenly, everything turned around. And the doctor said, this was not us. This was not medical. There's nothing that we did differently for everything to have just kick-started and start working again. It wasn't them. He told her this is a second chance and told her don't waste it. He told her that. And our prayer had been, as I was praying with my sisters, even then, we send mom an angel. That had been the literal prayer. And that is what happened. So I'm looking through, these miracles, these things that happen in the Bible, and whether our faith colors our experience or whether our experience colors our faith. And you think about, in some of these we've talked about so recently, I'm not going to look up the scripture, but like in Genesis with Abraham and Sarah, and the angel coming and saying, your wife Sarah is going to have a child. And she's in her 80s. So she laughs. And then they say, why are you laughing? I didn't laugh. Yes, you did laugh. Okay. Her experience affected her faith. I'm 80-something years old. People, I'm a grown woman. I'm 80-something years old. They will go right there on you in a minute, telling you what they know. Because I'm a grown woman. I'm a grown man. I'm 65. Seriously? They're like, I just said what I said, though. I said, you're going to have a baby. This time next year, you will be with child. Her experience colored her faith. She was like, it hasn't happened yet. It's not going to happen. And we can have that. It can be this, things never work out for me. So your experience colors your faith. That can happen all the time. So here's my personal story. This is what happened. A week ago, literally a week ago, this is Thursday. So last week, Thursday, I had a doctor's appointment. I'd been feeling really badly. And I actually had one on Tuesday. They called me back on Thursday to do blood work. Had my blood work done. They said, it'll be back tomorrow. We'll have the results tomorrow. So Friday comes, last Friday, 7 days ago, Friday comes. I call and I'm like, did you get the results? The nurse answers and she said, we did. Your A1C, my blood sugar, is 11. It's 11, it's double digits. And the doctor had told me on Thursday, it's likely going to be in the double digits. It was in the double digits. She told me it was 11. Like, yeah, Dr. Barnes told me it might be 11, or it might be in double digits. And she said, but there's some other things in your blood work and the doctor needs to talk to you about them. So I need to have him call you. You should hear from him before the end of the day. And if you don't, give me a call. So I said, are you going to send my blood test results? And she said, I am, but I need you to speak to the doctor first. The doctor didn't call. I got busy on calls. By the time I realized I didn't hear from the doctor, it's 7 o'clock, 7:30. So I still call just in case he's there, just in case he answers. He doesn't answer. She doesn't answer. And I realized, man, I'm going to have to go all weekend not knowing, because she didn't send the email. I'm going to have to go all weekend not knowing what was found in this blood test result. I don't know what it was. So I call again on Monday. And I said, what's going on? And she said, he's not in yet. He'll call you when he gets a chance. And, as soon as he gets in, I'll have him call you. But call me if he doesn't. So I call again Monday, late afternoon. And he says, we do need to talk about your blood work, but I don't have it in front of me right this moment. But your A1C was 11. And we knew it would be high, but it was 11. So I say, okay, is there anything else in my blood that I need to be concerned about? And he said, I don't have it in front of me. That's what jumps out immediately is that. And so let me call you, if I know. He basically says, I'm good. So I'll send out a couple of text messages. I'm good. I didn't have to be worried all weekend. I'm good. Then you get to Tuesday. Now we're Tuesday of this week. He calls me at 9:30 p.m. 9:30 p.m. I see his name show up on my phone and I'm thinking, what is going on? So we get on the phone and he said, I found this medication that you need to take. I've got some samples in my office. I need you to come get it. He said, I'm looking through your blood test results and we've lost one of your kidneys has already failed. So your numbers are, he says, your LDL is fine. I'm looking at that. It tells me what the number is. It's 33. That's really good. So your cholesterol is fine. Your whatever else, it's just your blood sugar, but now it's impacted your kidneys. And so one of them has failed, and we got to get this turned around, because that high of an A1C, we got to get. And I was like, wait, hold on. One of my kidneys has failed? And he said, I said, is it reversible? He said, it's not. So, but what we have to do is make sure we take care of this other kidney. So he's reading stuff off my blood work, verbatim. Your LDL is 33. That's really good. If that had been high, if your blood pressure, which is also good, if that had been high, you would have been at greater risk of heart attack. But the fact that the biggest thing is that your blood sugar is so high, that's what's affecting your kidney. So we gotta preserve that other one. I need you to come in the office and pick up this medication. Okay. And I'm trying to process. I get off the phone. I burst into tears. I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And how, I'm trying to wrap my mind around it. I'm supposed to talk to my sister. I sent her a message like, I can't talk tonight. I need to talk, but I can't. I knew I couldn't talk. So I'm thinking, all right, how am I going to process all of this? So Gina, of course, she's like, we don't just do the I'm not talking to you tonight business. I'm going to need you to go ahead and talk to me or say something. Tell me something going on, because you don't ever do something. So I tell her, I don't want to talk, but here's what the doctor just called me and said. And she said, okay. So we knew we were going to talk in the morning. Now, of course, this is Tuesday night. I got no sleep, as you can well imagine. I couldn't sleep. I'm tossing and turning. This is why this piece is important, because this is all stuff moving around, God doing things, and just all of that. I'm, reach out to my friend, Sister Spring, and she's praying, and we're trying to, process all of this. But in my time of not being able to sleep, and here's the key, Gina and I do word games all day long. We do word games, and that's part of what we do together. One of them is called the New York Times Spelling Bee. That's what we do every night. We got sister time at 8:00. We do our sister time, play this game. We do other games. You guys know of Wordle. We do Wordle. We don't necessarily do it together unless we get stuck. We do sometimes Quordle. Quordle's 8 of them. And so we do Quordle and Wordle and Sequence that are part of Wordle and Quordle. But there's a new game called Connections that the New York Times is beta testing. And they give you 16 words, and they're supposed to be in different categories. There are 4 different categories. You got to figure out which 4 words go in each of the 4 categories. And you're guessing and guessing. Well, all of those games, except for Spelling Bee, all of those games refresh at midnight. So if you played them that day, but you can't sleep like I couldn't sleep, then at midnight, you got a whole set of new games to play. So I'm laying in the bed, doing the games. I did Quordle. I did, Tortle, whatever it is, doing those, didn't do Wordle. But then I go to Connections. I do Connections. I get it on the first try. I'm like, yeah, I got it. I get maybe an hour and a half of sleep. The next day, Gina and I are talking. We talk through the medical stuff, processing all of that. And then we start talking about the games. And I tell her, I didn't really sleep last night. So, because she was saying she was struggling with one of the games, can't remember what it was. And I said, yeah, I got Connections last night. At midnight, it refreshed, so I did it. And I was like, yeah, so let me look. And I go to it. My solution is completely gone. And these are new words. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I got new words at midnight. So what are these new words? So then I try it. I completely fail at it. This is now Wednesday. I didn't get any of those. I couldn't figure out any of those categories. Still in a state. Very weird. And I told her, Gina, I know I got new words. I did them already, but these are the categories that I had earlier. I don't know what's going on here. Just put it in the don't understand what's going on with that bucket, right? Today's my follow-up appointment. I've got my list of questions. Gina's got questions for me to ask. Zora's got questions for me to ask. I got my notepad with questions so I can ask the doctor. Let's figure out these things. But my prayer going into it, here's my prayer. I go into it and I said, okay, here's what I want, the prayer warriors and everybody else to pray for. My prayer is that the results will be different than what was told to me on Tuesday. No kidney failure in the name of Jesus. I'm believing God for a miracle. Please join me in prayer. That's what I sent to the prayer warriors and a couple of other people who are like prayer warriors, even though they're not on the weekly call. I was just like, that's what I'm declaring. Thursday is my fast and prayer day. That's what I'm declaring. So I get there and they have all this medication, for me to take home with me and whatnot. And then I get back where the doctor is and I printed out, she finally, because she knew I spoke to the doctor on Tuesday night. So Wednesday, she did email me my blood test results. And I'm looking at it yesterday and I'm like, well, this is weird. Because of course I do my research and I'm looking and saying, they say that the creatinine, I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I say it. Creatinine and the GFR are the numbers that you can tell if there's kidney failure, kidney disease. So I'm looking, mine is well within range. I'm thinking, what did he see? Was there something else? And so I'm texting her, there must have been something else. And she said, yes, and he'll talk to you about it when you get here tomorrow. So I go in, sitting with the doctor. And so he says, oh, you have it printed out already. Let me just take a look. So yes, this was fine. This number was just like we talked about, 41.7, that shows that, this is going well. And then he gets down to the creatinine and to the GFR. And he's like, and this says 80. This is 80%. No, there's your LDL 33, which he had told me. Your triglycerides, we know they're high because of the blood sugar. Your hemoglobin, we knew it was 11.1. I'm so sorry. I must have been looking at somebody else. And then he's looking, but the LDL is 33. Like he's thinking, I'm looking at this like I was looking at it on Tuesday. It's 33, and your hemoglobin is oh my God, I mean, I'm so, your kidney is, I mean, it says 80%, it's fine. I told you, but it's fine. Now, and I'm looking at him like, and you can see, he's got complete confusion on his face. Like, I don't even understand. Because every other number that he told me on Tuesday is still the same as it is on this report right here. This is actually this isn't a prop. This is my real medical report. And you can, and he's saying, and I said, oh, great. I'll tell my family. They'll be thankful to hear it. He said, I mean, I must have been looking at somebody else's, but of course, this has only been a matter of 5 business days, right? And 2 between getting the results on Friday and him talking to me on Tuesday. So he's thinking, who else's report could I have had between Friday and Tuesday to have this conversation? He didn't say that, but he's saying, I must have gotten it mixed up with somebody else's. But you can see, like normally he would say, I had a patient come in and da-da-da. He had no, let's figure out who the somebody else was. You could see confusion all over his face. And he said, right then, this is 33, this is 11.1, this is 171, like all the other numbers that he gave me on Tuesday were exactly the same. But this one was in the normal range. Now, I pray for a miracle. As far as I'm concerned, my experience, my faith colors my experience. My faith colors what happened. To me, that's a miracle. Now, there are others who will say, I'm sure there's a logical explanation. I've had other non-believers say, you know what, you need to sue him for making you worry for those few days, or you need to change doctors because, and I'm thinking, I'm looking at a straight miracle. That's what I'm looking, this is what I prayed for, and that's the outcome, to the point where he was confused by it. Looking at and he's really sorry. I'm really sorry. Now, let me tie this back together with the weirdness. This morning, I wake up and do that connections game again. The words are the same ones that they were in the middle of the night on Tuesday when they got them all right and then they disappeared. So I've already sent Jean a message. It's the strangest thing. Jean, these words are the ones I got in the middle of the night on Tuesday. I knew what they were. So I'm saying, I don't know, there must have been a glitch in the matrix or whatever. That was before I went to the doctor. Now I go to the doctor, he's looking at it, he can't figure it out. He can't figure out what was I looking at that had all the rest of your numbers, but then this one. My thing is, my faith influences my experiences. I believe in miracles. I believe in miracles. I was reading an article and I was going to show it to you guys, but I won't. But there's an article in I can't remember. I'll post it in the chat. But this guy who is a Christian, but he's trying to find the scientific explanation for what actually happened with the parting of the Red Sea. See, I mean, if you look at it weather-wise, we can, it was either a wind set down or a tsunami. He's got, because there's got to be a logical explanation. But there's some other parts of it that still don't match that logical explanation. So if you want to read about the parting of the Red Sea, Exodus 14, verses 9 through 31. It wasn't just that they went in and it parted when he held out. Sure, could there have been like, hey, look, the sea is parted, we should go in there. But no, it was he held out a staff, sea parted, they get across. And the other piece that's in there is that there's a huge angel and a cloud or whatever that's separating them overnight. So the Egyptians couldn't get to the Israelites. And that's not explained by the wind set down and the tsunami. That's not explained by it. And there's a whole video. He did a whole, let's show you, but some things just can't be explained. They just can't. And, Gina knows, my history, so to spring, of course, but the doctor said one thing when I was growing up, and my faith said something else. Like that can't be it. That what you decided I can't do and will never do, I'm not embracing that. And so our experience, and that was just faith. So, our faith can influence our experience, our perception of it, and the actual experience itself. But then also our experiences can affect our faith. We have enough things go wrong, or we wait 85 years before we have a baby, and our experience says this isn't going to happen. This is just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But that's one way of doing it. When you think about hearing or seeing things in the spiritual realm, or getting messages from strangers or through dreams, things like that happen all the time in the Bible. And frankly, they happen a lot to me. And I'm okay with that. I recognize that there are some things where my faith, like we fundamentally, we kind of know there's a spiritual realm. But if somehow we hear or see, or there's something that happens where we experience that firsthand, it depends on where our faith is, on where we classify that experience. It depends. When Gina was helping me move to this apartment that I now live in, she was cleaning up at the house where I'd been. And when she came over and I was talking about some of the weird things that had happened in the house, Gina, she sat there for a long time. And then she finally said, have you ever heard a growl when you've been in there? I'm like, yes. I'm just telling you guys, our experience can color our faith can color our experiences, but some stuff is just real. There are real miracles. There is really a spiritual dimension where other things are going on than just the things that we see. That's real. And so you can decide for yourself whether it's, I'm sure there's a logical explanation. Sure, we can say he had somebody else's report in his hand and he blended them. So he flipped their one page into the middle of mine, read 3/4 of my results, and somehow read somebody else's, but he doesn't know who it is. We can say that. That's logical. Or we can recognize that sometimes God answers our prayers. We got prayer warriors who are praying and declaring, I need different results than what I got on Tuesday. And that is exactly what happened. And that's how I perceive it. So I will ask you today, all of you listening, watching, do you allow experiences to color your faith, or do you allow faith to color your experiences? And it might be a combination of the two. But where do you tend to default? So on that note, I'm going to bring my amazing sisters on screen. I know Karen cannot come on screen because she can only hear, but she can't turn her microphone on or her camera, but I know she's listening to everything. So Gina and Spring, do you have anything you want to share? What'd you say, Spring?
I said, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
That's what I want to share, because come on now. So yeah, I absolutely believe in miracles. I absolutely believe that God changed the report. I don't believe somebody else's report was read or whatever. I believe God changed the report. He said, not today. And
Not today.
He changed the report. That's what
I believe it too.
I was trying to think of my earliest memory, because I've always had faith. I've always had, my experience has built my faith. And probably my earliest memory is I just remember being I don't know how old I was, maybe 7 or so. And we were living in some townhouses, and I just didn't really feel safe there, because we'd always been in our own house, but we had to move. And I just prayed, I prayed for a house. And, my mom, of course, who taught me how to pray. She's right there, that she had that never ending faith. And she just was like, okay, go on and pray, baby. And I just prayed for a house. And it was like, I don't even think they had anything in the works. They were trying to save money, whatever. The opportunity came and said, hey, there's this house over here. They're selling it because, whatever. They got to move. They know your family. They love to have a family in the house. And it's like within a week, we had a house. And, it wasn't big. It wasn't fabulous. It wasn't any of that, but it was a house. It was our house with a yard and a fence and all that stuff. And I felt safe. And I thank God for that. That's probably my earliest memory. Like I said, about maybe age 7 or so, my earliest memory of God answered prayers. And then as a teenager, I was older than that. As a young adult, in early 20s, whatever, when my sister Jackie got sick, of course, we were praying for her healing and stuff. And so I got a little mad at God. I was like, I know you answer prayers. I know you perform miracles. Perform a miracle on my sister. She believes in you. She professes you. She's one of your children. Heal her. And then I had to accept, that it was not our will, but his will, that she was given to us for a period of time. Not something we planned for, accepted, or wanted, but it didn't turn around for her. So it didn't shake my faith in God. I just got mad at him for a little while. And then I had to, then I had to say, okay, Lord, but so yeah, that's my experiences with, I guess my experiences have definitely shaped my faith. That's the question, right?
Yes, and vice versa. What's interesting, Spring, when you talk about Jackie, and Jackie passed around on the day of Trudy's funeral, right, memorial service. And what was interesting is when Trudy had the aneurysm, and I got word in California, and I'm, crying, and Trudy's in the hospital. I ended up talking to my good friend Tiffany, who is a believer. And so she said to me at that moment, she said, God has so much more work for Trudy to do for Aunt Trudy, because she was everybody's Aunt Trudy. God has so much more work for Aunt Trudy to do. He's not going to let her die. And in that moment, I knew, no, he doesn't. She has fulfilled her purpose. I knew in that, as soon as she said, he's got more work for her to do, I knew in that instant, if anybody had completed their assignment, it was Trudy. And in that moment, I told her, I was like, Tiffany, she's completed her assignment. Like, I knew in that moment that no, she's not one of those who had lingering stuff hanging out there of things she didn't do. Trudy was, if she hadn't completed her assignment, nobody had. And in that moment, I knew she's going home. And sure enough, she did pass. And she, never regained consciousness. So she had an aneurysm, and likely her spirit she was in the bathroom, she passed out, and she just went out of her body and up, just gone. No pain, no suffering, no hospitalization, no long-term illness, nothing, like just gone. But the moment Tiffany said, God still has work for her to do. I knew in that instant, no, he doesn't. She has completed her assignment. That was the only thing that gave me a little bit of peace. It still was one of the most devastating things, I dealt with in terms of pain, but I knew in that moment that she had completed her work. And I will mention, I was at Gina's house, of course. I came to Michigan, stayed at Gina's house, and I was sleeping in her living room on her floor, some kind of blow up something. And so I'm sleeping down there and crying because I missed Trudy so much. I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. They had taken her off life support before I could get off the airplane. And so I'm crying and talking to Trudy and saying, Trudy, I didn't get to say goodbye. I love you so much. And please send me a sign. If you can hear me, just send me a sign. And right then there was a night light in Gina's living room that hadn't been on, and it suddenly turned on the moment I said, will you send me a sign to let me know that you can hear me? And the night light came on. And I said, okay, I know you hear me. I love you and I miss you already. And then I was able to go to sleep. And I knew that was her turning that light on to let me know, yes, I can still hear you. And I believe in that. There are other Christians who don't believe in, spirits and ghosts and whatnot, even though Jesus himself, and I got that scripture for those of you doubters, he himself talks about, did you think I was a ghost? Feel me, ghosts don't have flesh and blood. Luke 24, 36 through 43, look it up yourself. He references ghosts himself. So, and then we also know that Saul and the witch of Endor, she brought up Samuel, and he was like, why did you bring me up here to deal with you? We already know that can happen. So I don't doubt that was Trudy who turned that light on. So anyway, and I went to sleep because of it. So anyway, all right, Gina, what have you to say, my sweet sister?
I think I have experience. Can you hear me? I have experienced miracles. And I probably believed in them more easily when I was younger than I do now. I do believe that certainly God is capable. I don't always believe that he is willing. And I don't always believe that he's, I think that most of the time his miracles are things that we could say, oh, I can see how that happened. That happened, like blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I think his interventions are such that they're quiet and they're within our norms so that our world makes sense. Because if he just, willy-nilly was all in the mix, our world wouldn't make sense, right? But I do believe that he certainly has the capability of stepping outside of those norms. And I don't know when or why he chooses to or not to, but I will say I'm grateful this time.
Yep. Yeah. And, it's as you shared with me before, and I've heard it multiple times, a God that we're able to understand with our human brain is not big enough to worship. So we don't always understand why he does, when he does, how he does. We don't. And if we did, why would we worship him? His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. He's so far beyond anything we can think or imagine that you're right there. I don't know when he's going to, but I do know what his word says. And I know that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. I know that. I know that when two or more are gathered, that there he is in the midst of them. And I know that without faith, it's impossible to please God. I know that our faith makes things possible. And so that alone keeps me operating in and on faith. And it's interesting, mostly with the exception of you and Zora, the people that, and one other who just so happened to reach out to me right after I got off the phone with the doctor. Literally hung up with the doctor, and I got a message from my board president from the board in Los Angeles saying, hi, Connie, are you okay? And I was like, No, oh my gosh. Like I literally just hung up. Then randomly, I got a message from Bria and Alyssa in Texas saying, I'm checking on you and wanted to know how I can pray for you. I'm like, where is this coming from? But I knew, now Bria, I didn't give details. Alyssa, I did. And I just said, please pray in this way. So other than, than you and Zora, almost everybody that reached out were prayer warriors that just so happened to say, what's going on with you? I'm praying for you right now. What's going on? And I'm thinking, what in the world? But I felt like that was God as well, immediately, because why would I hear from 3 different people moments after getting that news? But people immediately started praying. And so then later, a couple other people, random people called, reached out, and God was like, don't, just, when they ask how you're doing, just say, I'm okay, or I'm fine. And so I did. And they were also good friends. And there was part of me that wanted to say, oh my gosh, let me tell you what's happening right now. But I didn't, because he didn't tell me to do that. So I didn't do it. And so, and as you and I talked about, and as I talked about with Zora, I was hesitant to even share with you and with Zora, because I don't want, I'm so close to you guys. I don't want you to worry, but I also don't want you to find out things after the fact or all of that. So I was hesitant to share. And then also knowing just how emotional my baby was, I had mixed feelings about sharing, but I also know if this is something that's really going on, I need to make sure that I'm sharing early. I'm hoping, even though I shared with Zora that I know this was a miracle, there's still the, sue the doctor and, all of that kind of mindset. And I'm like, it was a miracle. I know that it was a miracle. I really believe that, but I understand what you're saying. I may have to change doctors regardless, because this doctor is no longer covered by my insurance. So everything I've been doing has been out of pocket, but it's not going to be because the doctor gave me misinformation, because I truly believe that the doctor read what was on that report to me. I truly believe that. I don't doubt that. And also because the nurse who normally gives me my immediate results, she was like, I can't send this over to you until the doctor talks to you. And she told me over the phone, your A1C is 11. So it wasn't for that reason. It wasn't for the A1C. There was something else in the report that is not there now. So, and, clearly we had a reset, because those words came back. I was like, Gina, this morning before going to the doctor, the words are back. Those are the words that came in the middle of the night on Tuesday. What is this? She was just like, well, I don't know what's going on. I believe it was a spiritual reset. I really do. I believe that. That's what my faith says. So that's where I am with this. And, he's done enough miracles in my life that I don't have a reason to not believe this is one of them. So
You saw what Karen put in the chat, because she had to leave out. She said, I believe in miracles.
she does. She believes in miracles. She believes in miracles. And so do I. So do I. So I hope you all do too. I hope that your faith affects your experiences and how you perceive things, versus allowing your experiences to affect your faith. Because it's easy to go that direction. Things don't turn out the way we think they should, and we can go right there. And the only way, I'll say this last thing, the only way that I make it make sense, because I believe that he has set up the system of us being parents to show us how he is with us as a father. And imagine if your 3-year-old, your 5-year-old, if you didn't give them the cookie that they wanted, they were like, I no longer trust you as my mother if you won't give me that cookie. You won't let me run with scissors? You didn't give me what I wanted. I don't have any faith in you. You made me go to bed at 7:30? Done with you. And to me, because they can't possibly comprehend all that we know. No, you're 3, you can't have scissors, you can't drive the car, you can't play with the stove. Like, we know all of that because of where we are compared to them. How much more so where God is compared to us. and things don't turn out the way that we want them to, and we will go right there. You didn't do what I wanted you to do here, done with you. And we can't see the full picture, the big picture. We can't see most of it. Some of it we might not ever know. And that 3-year-old, once they get 13, they won't remember that they asked you if they could play with matches at 3. They won't even remember that. They won't even remember that, I was done with you at 3 because you didn't let me drive the car. They won't remember those things. Those are the stories we tell them about after the fact. And even all the different stages that, children go through, that teen stage where, you're dumber than a post. And then, later in their 20s, when they come back and say, can you help me with this adulting thing? Because, I didn't realize it, all the stages, it just reminds me of how we are with God. When when we think we're smarter than him, when we feel he's not being fair because he didn't give us what we wanted. And then later, when we come back, that train up a child in the way he should go. And when he gets old, he will not depart from it, but you got that messy middle. And then, you get to that other point, you realize this is way bigger than anything I thought. I thought I knew better than he did. And now I'm realizing I didn't. So I think that he shows us how that relationship can be very complicated by looking at what our relationship is like with our kids. And it's, it's good, it's bad, it's up, it's down. They're mad at us, they love us, they're thankful for us, they, feel like they could have done a better job, just all of that. I see that as representative of what our relationship is often like with God. So anyway, but praise God for my new report. Boy, oh boy, it's been a rough couple of days. And yet the prayer was specific. I want different results from the one I got Tuesday. It's like, okay, that I can do. And I got them. Will I still continue to do everything that I've been doing? Because I do still have to get my blood sugar down. Like, that's still a thing. Yep. I want to see a difference. I want this difference to be the long lasting difference. So I want to see that number stay at 80 and above. So anyway, those are the things I have to share tonight. So it was good to see you guys. Thank you for being with me for Bible Study Live. Spring, you're so funny with your apparition. You're in, you're out, you're on the screen, then you're gone. But I love your
see it at all. There I is.
There you are. So yeah, I don't know. Like, it's not always when you're forward or when you're back. Just sometimes you're there and then you're gone.
Just goes away. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Now you see
Anyway,
me.
but I know you're not a ghost.
Nope. I said, now you see me, now you don't.
There you go. There you go. Anyway, well, bye, Facebook. We'll see you next time. Oh, wait, before I go, Facebook, next month, September, our theme is making mistakes. So that's going to be interesting. So we'll see what God has for us for next month's theme, making mistakes. So see you then.